little shorter than he is. My name's Kevin. I'm an alcoholic. Man, I got to tell you right now, I'm just super excited, number one, to be here at 4:30 p.m. on a Friday afternoon in Manchester, Tennessee, and to see this number of people show up for a workshop. I was kind of joking around with Larry, and I apologize I don't have a suit and all on. Typically on a 4:30 workshop on a Friday afternoon at any conference that I've ever been a part of, that people are just getting off work, they're getting checked in, they have other obligations, things they need to take care of, and then they'll get here later on, hear the speaker, and kind of settle in for the weekend, man. But to see the number of people that are here today, and to be able to talk to the few people that I have beforehand, and just hear your enthusiasm for service work and your excitement for being here this weekend, it just makes me super proud to be here, and for that I thank you. And so let me go ahead and take a moment. I want to thank, and is somebody typing all of this, or because I was sitting here watching it and I'm like, whoever you is right here, whoever you is can type. And I was thinking, I know I'm from Alabama, and I can get to talking too fast, and I was just going to tell them if I get to talking too fast, just tell me to slow down a little bit. But there's no telling what that thing might say. If it's voice translation, it's hard to pick up on his southern accents a lot. But anyway, I want to thank Paul, Larry, and the committee for inviting me to come today. Yeah, I've got some notes up here. He's told you I've done this a couple of times. I'm going to try to use them as cliff notes and not just sit up here and read to you. The first time I did this workshop, I was asked to do it, and I had never done one. I prepared everything at home and typed it out and went to Mississippi, and I sat up there and ended up just basically reading everything that I had prepared. So the other couple of times I've done it since then, it's gone a little smoother. So anyway, I want to thank them for inviting me out and tasking me with doing this workshop on the home group. This is it's a big deal, you know, and it's been a humbling experience for me to meet those of you that I have beforehand. I've seen a couple of people that I know through service work already, so that's great to see some people that you already know, and just your love for service. It makes me feel proud to be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. My heart is full, and I thank you all for that. So what is a home group? Everyone says, well, I know what a home group is, buddy. I've been part of a home group for 30 years. Well, that's great. I think a lot of people in Alcoholics Anonymous just don't understand the significance spiritually of what it means to have a home group, of just how deep this goes and how open that it is, and how endless the possibilities to be of service and to grow spiritually truly are. The first thing I had to understand that when I came to AA was what is the difference between a home group and a meeting. People used to tell me that that's not a home group, that that's a meeting. The one that I was going to, my very first home group. That's not a home group, that's a meeting. I didn't get it then. I'm grateful that I get it today. Our literature in the AA group will tell you the main difference is what ends at the meeting continues with the home group. So our 12-step work, a home group, it's not held in check by the geography of a meeting location or the duration of the time of the meeting goes, whether it's an hour and a half, the meeting before the meeting after the meeting, whatever you want to call it. I'm not held in check just by the geography of where this meeting is. I'm not held in check just by the time length that I'm at my home group. And that's the main difference that our literature states. But I think it's so much more than that, and I'll give you an analogy. When I wore much younger man's clothes, I played a lot of baseball and a lot of football. I was offered a football scholarship when I was younger. I turned it down. I went and played college baseball instead. So I played a lot of baseball and football when I was growing up. I played from the time I was about 4 years old and through college. Played a little bitty semi-pro baseball with some teams from around Birmingham after college. I loved playing baseball. I played from the time that I could pick up a ball, and you know, I played 7 days a week. I mean, it was my life. I made all state, and I was part of all of these other teams, not travel teams. There weren't travel teams back in the, I won't say what decade, but there there weren't travel teams at that time. But they had what's called Senior Babe Ruth. Then they had like the Lions Club, the Kiwanis. They put all of these all-stars together throughout the state. And you got to play some extra baseball. I played it all the time. Picked up wiffle ball in the street, met with kids down at the Little League ballpark, and we'd get a game together, right? So when you think about that, at first glance, it all looks the same. It's the same ball, same bat, same field, same rules, same number of bases. The guys are kind of doing all the same thing, but it's very, very different. A team that practices 4 or 5 times a week, a team with guys who've been together for years and years with one go, they're going to slaughter that street team. There's not going to be any match. That's what happens with a home group and a meeting. That's the main difference between those two. See, a home group, there's spiritual preparation. A home group has a plan and action for what we're going to do when a newcomer walks through the door. A home group goes to assemblies together. A home group gets information from their GSR to disseminate and share it among themselves. A home group talks amongst themselves at coffee or when they're out playing golf. I love golf, sorry. Or doing those, doing social things. Because now, what happens, we've become friends. And we have all these friendships that are described in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous when it says, there you will meet lifelong friends and commence your common journey, shoulder to shoulder. So when you walk year after year after year after year with your heart and mind in tune to the welfare of others, this plan develops. So when a new man or woman walks into the room, there's no discussion. There's no, oh my God, what are we going to do? Who's going to go talk to them? It just happens intuitively and naturally. We just rush to the door. Those kind of things don't just happen in meetings. Meetings have their purpose. It's not for me to complain about my job, my wife, my kids, my boss, my car trouble, or any of those things. It's for me to carry a message of hope for that new man or woman who's sitting in the corner who doesn't have any of those things. And they're dying from alcoholism. Meetings are not the same as a home group. And they do not serve the same function as a home group. Many times new men or women will stumble into my home group, which, by the way, my home group is now Jaywalkers group in Montford, Alabama. Montford is about 10 minutes south of where I live in Oxford. Oxford is about 25 or 30,000 people. Montford is about 2,000. And there was this need for a meeting in Montford. It was just a community of some people who are really struggling. And I was approached and asked if I would could get something going. And so I started praying about this and started this meeting back May the 9th was the first meeting. And for I don't know, the first month, and we meet on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. It's all closed big book discussions or literature. Tuesday night's big book, Thursday night, it may be 12 and 12. It may be, as Bill sees it. There's no telling, but they're all closed meetings. Anyway, so the first month or so, we're going through these meetings, and I'm having, there's 2 or there's 3 people that are showing up. And I go home one night on a Tuesday night, and I tell my wife, I said, I just don't know now if there really is a need for AA in Montford. And I go back Thursday night, and there was 46 people that were there. The seventh tradition took in $97. And I thought, who am I to question what God's will is in my life and anyone else's? It was very humbling. Before that, I had another home group. It was New Life. That's the one that I was a member of New Life for about 16 years. every now and then we would get a newcomer that stumbled in. Now I'm talking about New Life, because Jaywalkers is still, I mean, we've got some newcomers in there. I took a call from a guy that I'm sponsoring right before we came out here. Paul heard me take a call from him. He's been sober about 4 days. And but in my old home group, we'd have a newcomer stumble in, and they couldn't believe what happened to them. And if they're lucky enough to stay, we would do everything in our power to make sure that they had a home there. Sometimes these newcomers would share later with us what they were experiencing in Alcoholics Anonymous, because they were just going to meetings. They were just picking some random meetings out of a directory, or calling, the call list that you see. They would always say, no one talked to me, or I was afraid to say anything. I was shaky. I didn't understand what was going on, what people were talking about. I didn't understand the language. I mean, we've all felt that as a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I shouldn't say we all have. Let me talk about my own experience. In my own experience, I had felt that. Then, at the end of the meeting, then we'd all stand up, hold hands, and pray, and everybody would go home. It was very confusing. So, they would ask questions at my home group then. They started to ask, there was this one guy, he started asking me questions about myself and how long I was sober. Did I have a sponsor? Did I have a big book? No, he bought me a big book. Hey, why don't you just come over here and sit with me today? What are you going to do after the meeting? We're so glad you're here. I started hearing these things, and it became welcoming just because of the spiritual politeness. This invitation to a new life can only be offered in a home group, in my own experience. It saves and changes lives. We talk about the traditions, and that the traditions to the group are what the steps are to the individual. We talk about the first tradition, right? We talk about our unity, but what is unity? Our unity is, I can't expect you to do it if I'm not willing to do it. That's the short form of unity. The next way to look at it for me is, what kind of AA do I want? What do I want when I walk into my home group? Do I want to be fired up? Do I want to be filled up from the inside out? Do I want to go see those people and go, man, it's so good to see you? Do I want to feel like we're actually standing for something and doing something together? Do I want to feel like we're making a difference in the lives of the people who walk in through the door simply by sharing our experience and how we establish our relationship with God through this program? Is that what I want? Then I have to participate in that. I can't just sit on the sidelines and expect it to get done. I must bring that unity in as an individual. And that's difficult for me because I'm important. And there's this chatter in my head, right? And I have this big old life outside of Alcoholics Anonymous, and it's demanding. And sometimes I just forget to change gears before I walk into a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, because I'm at the end of a 10 or a 12-hour work day where I've been slaying dragons out there in the real world. And now I get to go to my home group, where those folks are. Those folks I sponsor. They don't want to listen to what I got to say, those folks. And I'm tired, and God, I've been doing this for a long time. And man, that's a bad attitude for me to bring into Alcoholics Anonymous. I know I'm not bigger than that. I also know that I don't have the power to do anything about it. So I have to bring that same spiritual significance of unity in there, and I can't do that on my own. So I have to get together with God, my higher power. I have to ask for that before I get out of the car. It's time for unity. So I'm an engineer for a telephone company, and I don't know, I got 10 or 12 guys right now I'm sponsoring, and I'm past delegate for everyone, and I do workshops. and speak a good bit around the Southeast. And I do a lot of driving, and I spend too much time with that committee in my head. And if you know what I mean. So when I get to the meeting of AA, anyone that knows me, they know this. I shouldn't say never, but never in the past 13 or 14 years. Anyone who knows me knows this, that when I pull up, they don't just see me turn my truck off and get out and walk into the meeting, ever. I haven't done that since I started getting carried through the book and through the traditions, and these things were explained to me about what it meant to be of service and what it meant to, what it was or what it meant to be to fit myself to be a maximum service to God and to other people. So I turn that truck off, I park, and I pray. I say the same prayer I've always prayed, or some variation of this. God, I'm walking into a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. I got a lot on my mind. I'm thinking about business. I'm thinking about money. I'm thinking about how I'm going to pay my bills. I'm thinking about the football game. Never mind. I'm thinking about this weekend trip that I have coming up. I'm thinking about everything that has nothing to do with what's going on inside that room and what you would have me do. God, let me leave this in the parking lot where it belongs, safely in your care. I know it will be here for me to pick up when I get out. Let me walk into the meeting and be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous and do your will. Let me show in some degree by my actions and the way I carry myself how truly grateful I am for this undeserved gift. Now, what's interesting about that unity that we get to practice in our home group, detaching that from our worldly affairs and leaving the politics, the football, and the money, and all the things that are interesting and part of the whole life, leaving them in the parking lot because they have no place in the meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. That principle applies in all areas of our lives, or it should, or it applies in all areas of my life. I'm sorry. I do the same thing at home, right? I used to come home from work. I'd come home from a long night of I'd come home from a long night of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I've been married for 27 years to Christy. I love her like good poetry. Having said that, I would walk in after a long day of AA or work, and she'd say, honey, how was your day? And I would think to myself, and most of the time say it out loud, already with the questions? I just walked in the door. And she'd start telling me about what the dog had done or something, and I'd look at her and say, honey, can I at least get my shoes off? And she would go, fine, never mind, we'll talk about it later. And she'd walk away, and then I would think, there I go, I've done it again. Because I'm not practicing unity in my own home. So now, when I get home, before I turn my truck off, I say a prayer like this. God, I know there's a woman in that house, and I know that she's been waiting to talk to me all day long about what I don't know. But I believe that she's a gift from you, God, and my job is to show her I love her the way that you love her. So please let me put my selfish needs aside and be with her when I walk in that house, because I know that she deserves that. So the first thing I do when I get home is I find Christy, whether she's in the backyard, upstairs, on the couch watching TV, and I just sit down with her and I give her a kiss and I ask her how her day was. And then I listen. And you know what I found out? This crazy thing, this big sacrifice that I made for unity takes about 10 minutes. I was breaking my wife's heart for 10 minutes. So then I start to see just how much deeper these traditions go than I thought they did, and how they can really change my life. You know, I used to, I used to be torn, like when I was a GSR and a DCM, and the fall area assemblies, or the spring area assemblies always took place during proms. And I had two daughters who were they're 10 months apart. And so they were in the same grade. One was born in May, and one was born in July. Or one was born July, so she was like one of the oldest in her class, and then the other one was born in May of the next year, so she was one of the babies in the class, you know. So, but their proms always fell on that spring assembly, and then their junior prom I missed it because I was at an area assembly. And their senior prom was rolling around. It fell on the same weekend, and I called my sponsor, and I'm like, you know, I kind of have a dilemma this weekend. I says, the girls' prom's this weekend, and he says, what's the dilemma? I said, well, area assembly's this weekend. You know, I need to be there to represent my group. You know, if I'm not there, my group's not going to have a vote. He says, that's why you have an alternate. He said, send the alternate. And I says, well, the alternate, I already asked them, they can't go. And he says, well, then your group just doesn't get a vote. And I said, do what? He said, your group just doesn't get a vote. There is no dilemma. There is no question. It's not AA's intent or purpose to take us away from our family more than drinking did. It's the exact opposite of that. The whole point of this program and practicing these principles in every single one of our affairs is to reinstitute us into the lives of those that we destroyed and left for dead and abandoned for so long. Is to be there and to be present. Be a father. That's where you should be. We don't want the family to resent AA more than they resented alcohol. And that really hit me. You know, and just seeing those spiritual principles applied in his life and teaching me how to apply those same principles in my life. These traditions, you know, it says we practice these principles in all of our affairs. I get to practice these whether I'm at home, whether I'm at work, whether I'm at home group, whether I'm in Manchester, Tennessee. No matter where I go, I get to practice these principles, all 36 of them. And I'm just so grateful for that. It truly has been life-changing. And I'll talk some more about this tomorrow. If I ain't careful, I'll be just repeating myself tomorrow. So everyone in this room, because you're affiliated somehow with the service structure, and you're familiar with the group conscience, right? The only thing that matters is how God expresses himself in our group conscience. Well, just what does that mean? It means I've got to be more concerned with what you think about something than what I think about it. Maybe your spiritual condition's better than mine on this particular day. The more I care about something, the more I think I'm right. Then the more I had better listen to you. My wants, my fears, and my desires will distort my view of reality. And they'll make me think that I always know what's right. And it's gotten worse the longer that I've stayed sober. I mean, I'm approaching 18 years sober, and I've never been worse in terms of having to practice genuine humility. Like it says in our long form of the 12th tradition, a genuine, not the one where you act like you've gotten humility, but a genuine humility, right? like I don't know everything and I mean it. I don't know it. Like when I have to listen to people with 1/10 of the time that I have, and they make a very good point, and I go, you know what? He's right, and it's just killing me. So, this informed group conscience. I want all of the information. I want it all. I want it all given to me, and then what? Then I want to vote on it. No. You know, there's something in Alcoholics Anonymous that I've experienced from the time that I come in, and we changed this at my last home group over time. And I'll tell you what we did then, and it's what we do at Jaywalkers now. But we don't vote on any motion the night that they're presented. We just don't do it. We discuss them endlessly. But we don't vote on them. We let everyone talk about it. Everybody gets to give their opinion. but we don't vote on it. We table it till next month. The reason we do that is it introduces a principle that's not talked about much in the service structure, but it's in our literature. It's called prayerful consideration. You mean you're asking God to express himself in our group conscience? Now we're going to discuss something that none of us knew that we were going to discuss. We haven't read the motion. We haven't read any background information on anything. We haven't read the intent. And what's going on is my ego is going to be present. My ego is going to say to me right then, this is how I feel at the moment. Then there's other people stating their opinions, and I might not agree with them. That just makes my ego bigger, not smaller, and then suddenly we find that God's not in the room at all. If I really want God to express himself, shouldn't I pray about it? Shouldn't I meditate about this? And I'm going to tell you, once we started practicing this spiritual principle of prayerful meditation within our home group, and the way these business meetings go, and the way that the discussions went a month previously when we introduced the motion, and then we all come back together a month later after everyone's had time to talk to God about it and get a true feeling of how God expresses himself through that conscience. Those meetings are so smooth. There's none of that. Now the bickering happens when the motion is read. Don't get it twisted now. There's still some arguing going on, but this is just a discussion. Listen, we'll talk. We're gonna vote on it next month, but y'all go ahead, talk about it endlessly if that's what you need to do. But there's been a huge change in the way that things got done in the home group. Checking my time. We're good. Yeah, Paul was right. I did say, listen, and he told me the disc is 80 minutes long, right? 80 minutes long. So at 70 minutes, I'm going to do this so you'll know if you got a certain way you want to close, to go ahead and close. I said, let me tell you something. At 60 minutes, I said, the dinner's after this. At 60 minutes, they're going to get up and walk out or start throwing stuff. So we're going to get you out of here for dinner. So talking about autonomy, the thing about autonomy is we have a lot of young people in my old group. We have a lot of young people in jaywalkers, but it's a weird mix. We've got some old dogs that were in the old group as well. We had some mid-folks range. We have a lot of people with 5 years and under. A lot of guys in their first couple of months of sobriety. You know, it was just a mix, and they're on fire for Alcoholics Anonymous. They're going to meetings, they're getting service commitments, they're sponsoring other people. Not a couple of months, guys, but you know what I mean. I mean, it's just it was a ton of enthusiasm. It was like herding cats around there. And they're like we were when we were young. They need a lot of stuff to do. So about 8 years ago at New Life, we had started this thing. And we came up with this idea. I remember it from a friend of mine telling me that they had done it in their home group, and so it's about 8 years ago it was. I'm sorry, we started doing this, and there was always something going on, and I missed that. We were always playing ball on Saturdays, or someone was putting a play on. There was a lot of activity going on within the group. So excuse me. So you could keep your hands busy and keep your feet moving until God and the steps kind of calm your head down, and there wasn't any of that going on at New Life. So I just made a suggestion based off what one of my buddies had suggested to me, and I said, let's just have an activities chair, right? There's nothing in any literature that talks about activities chair. We have things in our group that we have other little committees and ad hoc stuff that goes on, and so we just come up with some duties and responsibilities and put it right there in the job descriptions with an activities chair. And they asked me, well, what is that? And we'll give a commitment to someone who forms a committee, and their job's just to take suggestions from other members to come up with activities that are affordable and a lot of fun, and we can get involved with and do outside the rooms. We'll make it a family night. We can invite our spouses and children. It has to be affordable so that we're not excluding the newcomer. And they were like, "Great, would you do it?" So I was activities chair. so I agreed to do it. And so we got some suggestions, and one of the things was hockey. Oh, hockey, God. Oh man, we have this semi-pro hockey team in Birmingham, and the tickets were affordable. I thought they meant playing hockey. I'm like, dude, I can't even stand up on skates. What are you talking about playing hockey? But we have this semi-pro team in Birmingham, Alabama, and they're like $14 a ticket. So we passed around this sign-up sheet, and we ended up with like 65 people that had signed up to that thing. And I agreed to order the tickets and front the price of them, and everyone would just pay me back, right? So I bought the tickets, and I tell my wife, "By the way, honey, you're going to see a $985 charge on one of these credit cards." She asked what I did it for, so I told her. I bought 65 hockey tickets for the group. She said, "You fronted 65 hockey tickets for a group of alcoholics? Have you lost your freaking mind? You actually think you're going to get paid back?" I said, "Yeah, I do. Actually, I do think I'm going to get paid back." And I have to tell you, in the last 6 or 7 years that I was there, we probably got to do 60 to 70 events together, and nobody had ever stiffed anyone. Not a single soul. We've done everything. We've gone to the circus. We've gone to car races. If y'all not familiar with where Oxford is, we're a rock's throw away from Talladega Super Speedway. And when I say car races, like, you can go out there, you can pay to drive a car. You get like 4 laps around the track. It's pretty awesome too. If you've never done it, you need to try to do it. I'm not even a NASCAR fan, but it was pretty cool getting behind the seat of one of them things. I'm a big guy too. Those race car drivers are small. And man, it was tough getting in that seat. I never will forget that. The first time I got strapped in there, that guy, he's tried to buckle me, and he's snapping this thing down. He loosens it all the way up, and I'm sucking in. He said, "Suck it." He said, "Suck in a little more." I suck in some more. He finally gets it snapped. He said, "Son, if you're going to be a race car driver, you got to lay off the biscuits." So we've gone to these races and done all this stuff. And more importantly, we had a guy in our group. He was an actor. He had a real job too, but he loved theater. He loved drama, and he was going to be in this play. So he comes up with this real sheepish, and he said, "It's just community theater. It's not really good, but it'd be nice if a few of y'all could come." About 65 of us went and watched this play, and I was probably like a lot of you, though. I was about like this. I was dozing off. I couldn't. But we showed up. You could tell who we were, and when they started, when the play started, it's just things like that. Someone graduating from college, and we would just go and support them for that. Someone having a baby, it's like, "How many uncles and aunts do you have?" 60 people out in the waiting room. You know what I'm saying? Tradition 1, real quick. I'm going to talk about it a little bit. I'm just a small part of a large whole. I love that tradition tells me that I'm going to have to make sure that if you survive, I'm going to make sure that you survive if I have any shot at surviving at all. That we're going to have to hang out together. Surely all of us are going to follow along. So I continue to march in my home group. We're big on service structure there. We're not just one of those groups that keep newcomers away from it. We encourage people to participate. And what we started doing is we invite. That means we talk to people about our committee meetings with us. I think one of the worst things about the service structure, a lot of people just don't get to experience it until they actually have a job in it. All of our service structure all of our service structures meetings, whether it's the group, the district, or the area, it's open to any AA member that wants to come. So we invite anyone that wants to come, and we invite the same way that we were invited. I could really use your help. You always preach to the ego. It seems to work really well. I do that same thing with new guys, with sponsees. Man, that was the first time meeting this guy. The guy that called me today, a couple of nights. Met him Tuesday. Tuesday was the first time I met him. I said, look, man, I sure would appreciate it if you call me tomorrow and check on me. So he calls me, hey, how you doing? I'm doing great. How are you? He give me an opportunity to ask him how he's doing. You know, if they feel like that they're really helping you, number one, when all other activities fail, intensive work and one alcoholic, the next is going to save the day. So if they have that sense of need and want and that they're really helpful, and they are, don't get me wrong, don't get it twisted. I know my sponsees, the guys that I carry through this book, have helped me way more than I'm ever going to be able to help them. But I do tell them, hey, give me a call tomorrow and check on me. Make sure I'm doing okay. And it gets them to call me. I never had one not call. Never. Our fifth tradition, you know, it states that we have but one primary purpose, to carry this message to the alcoholic who still suffers. That seems like a no-brainer, doesn't it? One of the things that I was taught, one of the things that I try to practice in my life is to realize that everything I see in Alcoholics Anonymous, whether I agree with it or I disagree with it, whether I like it or I don't like it, it doesn't matter what my personal opinion about it is. Behind that, there's only one thing. You see, right now, I know that something, and all of you know it too, it may not be at the top of your consciousness, but we're on the same afternoon in Manchester, Tennessee on a Friday, and we're safe and we're sane and we're sober. But I know something, as much as I'm standing here right now at this very moment, not very far from here, maybe within an earshot, that there's a man or woman that's physically dying from alcoholism. Probably more than one of them. It's probably a lot of them. And what they don't know yet, and that we do, is that they're coming to Alcoholics Anonymous. They're just finishing up their story right now. They're running out of whatever little bit of self-will and self-generated hope that tells them that maybe they can handle it themselves one more day. They're starting to run out of that. And they're going to arrive in Alcoholics Anonymous. I know this. They're going to come up here like we came here. They're not going to come here necessarily looking for us. They won't know what they're looking for because they'll be out of hope. They'll be out of answers. And they'll be out of chances. They're just going to come in like desperate people do, looking for something, clinging to something. Please, maybe there's an answer here. And the question we have to ask ourselves as member of Alcoholics Anonymous in the home group setting is, where will we be when they arrive? More important than where we will be is, how will we be? I think this tradition speaks so much more than what I think AA's job is. I think it speaks to what my job is as an individual AA member. What am I willing to leave outside that door? Because I've been here for a little bit now. I have a room full of friends on any given night, and they're like brothers or sisters to me, and I love these people dearly. I want to talk to them. I want to tell them what's going on in my life. I want to hear what's going on in theirs. And we do that in Alcoholics Anonymous because we love each other. We become a family. But I know that I could never take my eyes off of that door. I could never take my eyes off the room. And I can never really forget why I'm in that room. Many years ago, I had a fantastic experience, and I hope that I never forget it. I was attending a clubhouse meeting in Nashville, Tennessee. I was about 8, 9, 10 years sober, somewhere around in there. And I was sitting with a really good friend of mine who's a past delegate here, Area 64. And I hadn't seen him in a little while, which is like a tight lifetime when you're drunk, you know. A little while, a year or so, it's like a lifetime. We were sitting there together acting like a couple old hens, just staring at each other, talking and laughing, completely oblivious that anyone else was even in that room. And most certainly not paying attention to anyone that might be new. And this old timer, he slipped up behind us like those old timers do. You know, he's like creeping down and pop up behind you. Oh, where'd you come from? I was sitting right back here, young boy, and I was watching y'all. Anyway, he popped up behind us, and he put his head down between our shoulders, and he put his arms around our necks, and he said, "That's okay, boys. We'll just bring the newcomers to you." And man, you talking about feeling this small, because he recognized that we were just oblivious to anything else that was going on in that room. And I just never want to forget that. That experience taught me immediately. It's what I talk about, people that love you so much that they just tell you the truth, whether it hurts your feelings or not. God, I'm so grateful to have those people in my life. So in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, and we talk about it a lot, what's a business meeting for? Well, that's where the GSR comes and they give a report. No. That's where we find out about corrections. No. I'm doing good here. That's where we find out about the hot new literature. No. All that stuff happens, and it's going to happen at almost every home group meeting. But that's not why we have a business meeting. We have a business meeting to promote our primary purpose. Plain and simple. So on a monthly basis, we can take our pulse, right? We can check those vital signs. We can take our temperature and see how we're doing at fulfilling the requirement, the obligation, the sacred chance to carry the message to the alcoholic who still suffers. How are we doing at fulfilling that? When we have our yearly inventory, and we do, well, at New Life we do a yearly inventory. You know who we want to talk to? We want to talk to all the new people there. We want to talk to the people who've been there less than a year, 6 months. That's who we want to talk to. Nobody else. We sit there and go, you tell us how we're doing. Well, I don't know. Well, tell me what your experience was when you got here. We want to know. Did you feel welcome? Were you brought into the middle? Were you given a job? Were you shown how to do it? Were you invited or told to do something? Were you invited by someone? We want to know how we're doing at fulfilling that primary purpose. We had that monthly business meeting so we can see how we're doing, so we don't lose track of that primary purpose, because without that, we will simply just lose track of it. We'll get distracted by all the gifts that we have in our own life. That's what I love so much about the long form of the 12th tradition. We believe anonymity has an immense spiritual principle, that we're practicing a genuine humility, this to the end that our great blessing never spoil us, and we live in thankful contemplation of Him who presides over us. I have these great blessings in my life. I have this great life. I live in a wonderful house in a beautiful part of the country. Whether y'all believe Alabama's beautiful or not, I live there, I know it is. I gotta say though, it's beautiful in Tennessee too. God, I love driving up through the mountains. I'm married to a great woman. I've been blessed with 4 children and 4 granddaughters. It's just a beautiful place, and I have all these great blessings. But I can forget what my primary purpose is if I'm not careful. I can be distracted. I can be spoiled by these many great blessings, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to live in thankful. I do want to live. In thankful contemplation. Thank you, God. Let me think what you've done for me, and let me think about the work you have for me. So that when we have that monthly business meeting, it's not really about business at all. It's about that man or woman that hasn't arrived yet. And will we be prepared? You see, I go to my meeting every Tuesday and Thursday night at 7 p.m. at Jay Walker's. But there have been many nights, even since it started, when I know someone walked in just like I did on June 18th of 2006, and it wasn't just a Tuesday or Thursday night for them. For him, it was just seconds and inches. That might be his last opportunity, that little small window of opportunity for him to get into Alcoholics Anonymous. The window that opens and closes right behind you. He may never make it to another meeting. And I have to ask myself, what am I going to be like when he gets there? And how am I going to be? I am getting close here. Home group's great. I hear a lot of people talk about us losing that 12-step legacy, and that just upsets me, because we haven't lost the 12-step legacy at all. You know, you hear a lot of, even myself when I first come into Alcoholics Anonymous, you know, we went to hospitals, we went to treatment centers, we went to corrections facilities, we took phone calls, right? The phone rang all the time, just 17 years ago. That still exists in Alcoholics Anonymous, but not nearly as often, you know. So when I hear people talk about these things, and they said nobody ever seems to go on a 12-step call anymore. Really? You haven't? Because I go on 12-step calls all the time, right in my home group. 12-step work hasn't gone away. It's just that the location has changed. Over the years, we've established these great relationships with treatment centers, and we have these great relationships with correction facilities, and we have these great relationships with doctors and hospitals and the court systems, and everybody is sending people into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. We have this big conveyor belt. It's just dumping them right in our laps. And if I'm not careful, I can be sitting around chatting it up with an old buddy, and that conveyor belt turns on and it dumps a couple into my lap, and I'll miss them. And just like that window opened, it's going to close. That's why we have those business meetings. We just want to check our pulse. How are we doing at fulfilling that primary purpose? That's why it's so important that we don't turn the home group into just a meeting, and the meeting into a social setting. This is a 12-step center. If you go to your home group with the mindset to do 12-step work, God will work through you to change and save lives, the same way that someone worked in mine and changed mine, just by simply sharing with me how he established his relationship with God through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. If you go there to check in, see your friends, say, "What's up? Did you get your hair done?" "Yeah, I had it done today. You like it?" I did get mine done today. Someone might just die, because we're the ones. We're blessed with certain skills and aptitudes, and we have a common experience, and we also have a common solution. We can reach them when no one else can. And if God is everything or else he's nothing, that person is there for a reason that very night. If I'm not paying attention, if I'm not spiritually connected, what if that reason was just to meet me? But I had a big day at work. I got a trip coming up. I'm tired, not spiritually connected, and God sent one of his kids for me to help him, and I missed it. Oh, well, I guess there's another meeting tomorrow, right? Maybe not for that guy or for that girl. What we do here is incredibly important, and it's an honor and it's a privilege. I can't think of anything more important than in some small way having the opportunity to participate in the resurrection of another human being. We're granted nothing less than that simply by just being members of Alcoholics Anonymous, and all of these opportunities to participate in what we do. I owe a great debt to Alcoholics Anonymous. I know that. I think most of us know that. But really what I've been thinking about probably for the last decade, what I've really tried to do more than anything is to be that guy who creates the environment where recovery can happen. I don't try to overcome everything by myself. I want company. I crave that fellowship, and I invite people into my home. I invite people into my heart. And having them catch fire with AA, and then them sponsoring guys, and then them catching fire. What's happened is we have this enthusiasm. Let me tell you, spirituality is the word of the day in Alcoholics Anonymous, but I'll tell you what, cannot be defeated, and it's the most valuable thing that we have. It's the true difference between a meeting and a home group, and that is spiritual enthusiasm. You get an alcoholic who's on fire with this thing, who's not afraid to look you in the eye and say that AA is the best damn thing that's ever happened to him, and you'd be a fool to miss that. You turn him loose on newcomers, and the miracles will start happening. Thank you for listening.